Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Debbie and I'm a mixed media artist, and if you're one of my lovely regulars, I'm still Debbie and a mixed media artist, and welcome back to you all. It's so nice to see you here. Bit of housekeeping as usual. If you like what you see, leave me a like and a comment if you've got some time. I try to get back to absolutely all of them, and of course subscribe so that you see more of this sort of thing. And don't forget to consider joining my Patreon, where you will see all of these things put to work in good detail. Today I've just had a bit of an art haul here. It's not a massively big one, nor is it very varied. For a mixed media artist, I normally have a few other things in the mix, but this time I wanted to add to my collection of acrylic gouache. Now, I love acrylic gouache. It's not like normal gouache, so once it's dry, it's permanent. It also means you can paint on other things, actually. And, gosh, just need to sneeze. No, well, we'll see how we go. Yes, you can paint. I did need to sneeze, so I thought, well, I should stop the video there rather than exploding in here on camera. Sorry about that. It's allergy season. It's always allergy season. As I was saying, you can use acrylic paint to paint on things other than paper. So you can paint on canvas, a canvas board. You can also paint on wood and MDF, so medium density fiberboard. And actually I started out teaching in the the middle 1990s, and I taught folk art, and we used acrylic paint and acrylic gouache. Now, you can get acrylic paint and you can get acrylic gouache, and acrylic gouache differs from acrylic paint in that it dries matte as a rule, and you can layer things on top, which is super useful for a mixed media sort of artist. So what I do, I have a problem with full set syndrome for starters. This is a little symptom of it. I also have a problem with buying 2 or 3 of everything because I forget what I've got, because I have quite a bit, and I've solved this problem by making myself a swatch book. So let me clear that away. This is simply a Daler Rowney graduate sketchbook, 140 GSM. It's not actually meant for wet media, and this is absolutely wet media. However, it doesn't matter if the pages buckle a little bit, because this is basically something that I can shop with. So when I go online, I'll have my swatch book and I'll have a look and see what I've got already. And I've got everything listed down here, all sorts of different media, the whole lot, kit and caboodle. As you can see, I've got a fairly good set of this lot. There are some gaps, and where there's gaps, sometimes when there's a sale on, I'll go in and say, oh, right, I want this, I want that, I want something else. And I can go and buy what I would like, knowing that I'm not doubling up, because it's happened too many times and it becomes very expensive. So here is my Turner Acrylic Gouache page. Now, Turner Acrylic Gouache comes in a couple of different sorts. Let's see if I can find some. There is regular, which is an acrylic gouache, and it's really, as you would expect, it's a regular acrylic gouache. Dries matte, beautiful to use, nice colours, although you do have to be careful with some sites. I dare say they're all different, as are all computers. Sometimes the colours look different on the screen, and I've come to grief a few times with that. However, you can mix this paint very, very easily. So if it's not the right colour, again, that's what I do in tutorials. I'll show you how to mix it. They also have a pastel range. Pastel, of course, means a light range, and I've got a few of those as well because they are really very useful and lovely. And the other one that's absolutely gorgeous is their Japanesque range. Now, the Japanesque range of colours, when it dries, it has a little bit of a tooth to it, so it feels a tiny bit rough. And this is really quite nice for extra texture. Things layer over it beautifully, and the colours are actually some of my favourites. So the Japanesque colour range is lovely as well. So we've got all sorts here. And I'm going to now find the colours for each page rather than sitting there making you wait. I've got another little tip for you in a second too that I think you will find quite nice. And we will swatch these out and see how they fit in with what I've got already. Please ignore this page. If I had my piece of paper that I put there, we could ignore it quite effectively. How about instead I do this and I get a clip or two and keep it shut. Then we don't have to be distracted by what's on the other page. So let us find these colours and we shall get going. Okay, so the first lot I've got here now, and it took a while to find them because they all look exactly the same until you've read everything. One tip I would say, well, there's a couple here actually. Number one, I go onto the website where I often shop, and I'll write down in order of what they have. And then I will make sure I put the numbers with them because I live in Germany. Some of these names are in English, some of them are in French, and very few are in German, but every now and again you get that as well. It's really good to have the number as well as the colour so that you can cross-reference. And here, bright yellow, Jaune Brilliant, that is a 30, and here it is on the tube, 30, because it's bright yellow. It's written in English on the tube but in French on the website, which is in Germany. It's all very confusing. Actually, I'm going to leave those ticks there because they will serve a purpose. So having the number behind everything you buy is super, super important to cross-reference because we can't assume that everything is going to be in the same languages of the website or even the same language that you speak. So it happens. So this one is bright yellow. We may as well start with that since I have it in my hand. It's quite bright. Oh, drop the brush. That's a good first start. I'm just going to wet the brush and I'm going to take it straight from the tube because we are swatching. And that is, this is a nice colour. Now why I've left I've put some ticks where I expect the colours to be because that's what I was buying with my buying plan. And you can also see that they're not particularly opaque, but I've used quite a bit of water to get them to work on the paper. Paper can be very funny, especially because it can be made of absolutely anything, and it will suck the water out of whatever you're using. So depending on what sort of paper you've got, you can expect to use more or less water. This is pretty simple paper. It is not rag content like watercolor paper, so it doesn't suck as much water, but it still can be a bit scratchy. So you sometimes would have to expect to put a couple of different layers down. Also, these are not always opaque. You can't assume that. Some of them are, some of them aren't. It can be pigment dependent, so depending on the color will depend on how opaque it is. This one's such a pretty color. I will forgive it almost anything because it's really lovely. So that's bright yellow. This one is maize yellow and sits right next to it. Normally they've worked these out to see where they sort of fit together, which is why they list them the way they do. See, I like that one too, but I actually prefer that one. You might argue you don't need both of these, and I think that would be probably fairly accurate. However, here they are, and because I have full set syndrome, quite famously, I will want the whole lot eventually. Even ones I don't like, which sounds mad, but if you know how to mix, there's no such thing as a colour you don't like. It's a colour you don't like yet. And that's a really important distinction from my point of view, justifying my particular brand of madness anyway, because I will mix them and I will come up with a recipe and write it down. Always do that if you're mixing colours. So how much of each you put in. You might put in 1 part of this to 2 parts of that, say to a touch of that. Just write it down because you won't remember, and it's a pity if you get the perfect colour, especially if you're buying a set. I've bought these colours individually, but if you're buying a set and you won't like all the colours. I've never met anyone who's liked all the colours in a set. There's always a pink or a green that you think that does not occur in nature. There's no way I'm going to use that. If you know how to mix, you can, and you will. So yeah. Permanent yellow orange, which is down here, number 13. Again, it is on the tube. And that's also, oh gosh, this isn't a lot. Okay, here is an example of a very alarming colour. It's what you would expect. It did say yellow orange, and it certainly is the sort of colour you could make a high-vis safety jacket out of. However, on the tube here, as you can see, and let me just lift this up a little bit just in case you can't, it's wildly different. Look at the colour on that, and look at the colour that's actually in the tube. That wants knocking back a bit, and that will happen, because otherwise I probably wouldn't be using that colour, which is a pity, since I've bought it. But it did say yellow orange, and it certainly is yellow orange. So carmine. This one's number 22. And again, yeah, this is a bit of an alarming pink. Oh gosh, it's a pink I would rarely use. However, for sunsets, both of those would go really beautifully for a sunset. And also, I can use this colour to push a green back into its box if I don't like the green. So that will still come in handy. Again, like I said, there's no such thing as a colour you don't like. It's a colour you don't like yet. And that's a big, big difference. Nothing's permanent. We can always play with it. And that's the thing I love about being a mixed media artist. You can use these to colour other things. Actually, you can colour all sorts. Poppy red. This one is number 29. And I like these lovely true reds. You can see here how it's slightly sort of scratchy on the sides. I don't mind that because I like texture, and that will fit in very nicely. Chinese red is enough different. This, enough different. Gosh, that's good English. I'm glad you don't tune in here for the English lessons. Chinese red has got a little bit more orangey tone. Poppy red has got blue in it. And you can see it's a little bit of a different colour. I'm hoping there's no actual shine there. There can be sometimes. So those are my colours for the first page, which again, it's usually in some sort of colour order, not physics colour order, starting with red, but starting with yellow and working through oranges and things like that. So I've got some nice additions here to my stable of reds and yellows. Need some more oranges is what I can see now. And this is the good thing about having a book like this. You look at this now and you say, right, it goes from yellowish to orangish without being orange. Here's the orange. There isn't a huge amount of orange in the range, actually. This is the orange. These two are representing orange. So maybe I need a different brand to bring me a different colour orange, and that's what I can see here laid out in front of me. I do have a look on the computer, but like I said, the colours on the screen can be very, very different, and you can fall into some massive holes that way. So looking at it here, I can either mix a yellow, in which case I need some different yellows because they are lacking here too. These aren't pure yellows. These are yellows that are mixed. Very nice, but mixed. That one, dandelion, I use that an awful lot, especially for highlighting trees. I'll see if I can find one in a second and show you a picture I've done with that. It's really very nice. That's lovely. None of these are pure oranges, pure yellows, sorry. So even though I've got some nice reds that I could mix an orange with, it's not sure what these will come out as. So we need some sort of primary colours for that. So I can see now that next time I go shopping for these colours, those are the gaps that require filling. Okay, let me find the next few colours and I'll see if I can find something where I've used dandelion. Okay, so before we go on with this, I did find some pictures here where I've used, that's that dandelion colour. So let me just flick back to that one. It's this one here, this quite alarming looking yellow. I've used it to highlight over the top of gouache. You can use acrylic gouache over the top of gouache, normal gouache that is, quite readily, whereas the other way around can be a bit problematic. Here again, this is more of an autumn toned thing, but the dandelion has fit perfectly because here it appears as green. And I love colours like this. This is why I love my Mars Black Derwent Light Fast Pencil and my Forest Derwent Light Fast Pencil because they can be several different colours. Here, the dandelion looks green, and here it looks yellow. And in reality, I think I can see it here. Nope, that's mustard. Anyway, you can see it here better. In reality, it is actually a greenish yellow, but depending on what you've got it with, it's all about the context. So I love that, and it's worked really well, and it's fabulous. It really pops on the page. So Dandelion is definitely, pop that somewhere. Dandelion is definitely one for the shopping list. It's, yeah, it's a very nice greenish yellow. Okay, the next one is Prussian Blue, which is down here. As you can see, I've not got a lot on here. I'm being very, very selective, and I'm trying to actually behave like an adult. But there's no race, basically. I've got plenty here to mix with, and I've got plenty here to work with anyway. As you can see, this book would be empty if I didn't have any, as I will dramatically declare to my husband that I don't have any paints and I'll never be happy again, and all that, you know, the usual thing. We've all been there. Prussian Blue, it's quite a bright Prussian blue. There may be a bit of shine, I'm hoping not. Yes, now there is. Would have been better had I left it alone. Let me just dry that, because I've used quite a bit of water there. And it dries nicely. Also, with the amount of water I've put in it, it's almost granulating. And this is what I love about these paints. When I started out with folk art, I used the acrylic paint quite thickly. But actually, if you really, really water it down, you can get it to work like a watercolour. And you can see there, I think, some of the variation. It's really quite nice. And it's just lovely. Water it down, play with it, water it down, do all sorts. You can buy mediums for these too, which, you know, flow mediums and open mediums, which means it's a retarder medium, it's called, and that means it retards the drying process. So they stay wet a lot longer, and I use that extensively when I'm doing my jelly plate prints. Cannot obviously grab one of those just quickly. Actually, I can. Sorry about all the grunting and carrying on in the background. This is one of my jelly plate prints. I don't use my jelly plate like a lot of people do and just do sort of stamps and impressions with flowers and things. I do my landscapes and seascapes, and I will pull 2 prints from each one. This is a, just excuse me, I'm just going to get up out of the chair and get another one, because I've just found the original print. When I do my jelly plate printing, I pull 2 prints. There'll be an original and there'll be a ghost print. And I then work back into it with mixed media. So what I've done here is the bird is here. The bird didn't come out on the ghost print, which is fine. You can't expect the bird to hang around all day while we get our affairs in order. So bird's gone, but this is the same sort of landscape. So I use retarder medium with my jelly plate work, because it works better for the way I do things. Again, there is a tutorial on my Patreon if you want to see how to do that, because I know there's a lot of people out there who have bought jelly plates and put them in a drawer where they're nice and safe. I did that 8 years ago. Then the other day, actually September, I had a September resolution, and that was to go through my drawers and dig out stuff that hadn't seen the light of day for some time. Yeah, so I went and had a look, and I found a jelly plate, and I was going to buy one, and I found it, and I thought, right, okay, you can actually earn your keep and do some work. So that's what I came up with. But like I said, I'm not a fan of the usual sorts of things that people do with it. So I do my landscapes, and I like that. Right, this is Peacock Blue. Again, nice colour, lovely and clear. There are clear colours, and what I mean by that is you can see that they're not as muted as some others. Quite a lot of them on here. For example, this is a clear colour, this is a muted colour. And the muted colours are what I actually prefer unless I'm mixing, and then I want a nice clear colour that is definitely green or definitely blue. See, this is definitely blue. This is not. This is falling somewhere in between these 2 colours here. So this is not a nice clear colour. You could use that either way, which is also good, depending on what you're trying to do. So these are clear colours, this one. Yellow ochre is reasonably clear. This is obviously green, that sort of thing. Right, what have we got on here? We've got a neutral grey 8. That's right there, so don't need to go looking for that. And that's a really nice, as it says on the tin, neutral grey. It's neutral in that it's neither warm nor cold. However, it's leaning towards warm, which is my preference. Right, so next thing, let's just give that a swipe with my dryer. You can use a hairdryer for this. I've got this craft tool that I use for my card making. So again, it can do double duty. But you could use a hairdryer as well. So turning the page, not ready for these yet. We'll come back to those. I want to go to the greyish colours, which are down here. And now I have a greyish red, a greyish beige, a greyish brown, and a greyish green, which means I've got the full set of those. That makes me feel happy. You'll be pleased to know, I'm sure that's changed your day. Greyish red. I like these because they're muted. If you want to mute a colour, so for example, supposing you've bought something like this and you think there's never going to dawn a day that I use that, put some grey in it because it tones it down. You can also use earth tones, so basically any of the browns, but putting a bit of grey in it will actually knock it back a bit and make it behave. Greyish red, as expected, is nothing to do with red really. It's more of a it's really hard, isn't it? It's like puce, but it's a very nice colour and it's going to get quite a lot of airtime, that one. Greyish beige is next. And some of these are quite close. I mean, if you look at that label there, that's extraordinarily close considering the other one, which wasn't even the same. You could dispute that it's even on the right container, but there you go. You got to roll with the punches with some art materials. They do their best, but, you know, it just happens. That's it, dry, put a bit of water in it. As you can see, it's a nice colour, that. That is a very useful neutral, especially for large areas of ground that need some sort of background before you apply texture over the top. Greyish brown, that was greyish beige. This one's greyish brown. A little bit of water there, not much space to work in, but enough. And as you can see by the disappearing of my letters here, a couple of layers of this will be very opaque indeed, so I've got no worries about that at all. Final one here is greyish green, and then I shall dry these and go and find the next lot. Greyish green, this is a nice colour. Oh, I do like that. That's very green earth type, which is a colour you find in a lot of different mediums. Let's give it some water. Yeah. And like I said, with acrylic, you can use it straight from the tube, as in I would put it on a palette first, although I do use it like this sometimes. Or you can mix it with quite a bit of water. You can mix them together. You can mix them with other things. That's all stuff for the future. But I'm really happy. These are great. Right, so I'm going to dry this and get started choosing the next one. Okay, the next two are our pastel colours, before Japanesque and then Holbein. So the pastel colours are a pastel lime and a pastel olive. And I'm looking here for the same sort of thing that I use that dandelion for, is to be able to highlight. Gosh, this is not only pastel, but alarming. Goodness, you could see this from space. That's quite bright for my taste, but used very sparingly, it will work out like the dandelion one, but it gives a different colour. And the dandelion one is good for late summer and autumn because it can also mimic yellow, as I showed you. This one is better for spring because it's a fresh, clear colour. And while I have you here, I'll tell you something else I do. I quite often will get the top of this and just make a bit of a swatch on the top of the lid, just like that. Just squeeze a very small amount out and put it somewhere to dry, because I have these in a little tin. This is just a food tin that I've covered with paper, and I stand them up like that. And I don't often worry about which colour it is, as in what the colour's called. I look at the sketch I'm doing and I think, oh gosh, I need a pink. There's a pink. That's all I need to do. So this works particularly well, and I've got a fair few of these sorts of containers because obviously, you know, if you save them from your food and then put some nice paper on, they work really, really well. So you don't want to be saying, oh, is that orange? No, no, no. Ah, right. Okay, just grab it because you've got the swatch on the lid. I find that really useful. This one is Pastel Olive, and another nice, bit more muted, which is what, you know, my heart and soul requires, is this muted colour. So that works particularly well as well. And again, put a little bit of a swatch on the top without squeezing too hard. It's really not worked out. That's quite close to the label too. Not exactly, but a lot closer than the other first one we looked at. So that will go in there, and they can all sit and dry, and we're good. Okay, so that is the pastel section. I shall now find all of these others. It takes an enormous amount of time. Maybe it just takes me an enormous amount of time to find them all, but find them all I have and sorted them out here. I've got a couple of ticks in places where I haven't got any paint, and that simply means that I'd planned to buy those colours, got to the website and they weren't there. Right, so these are the Japanese colours, and these have a fine tooth to them. I wish I could show you, but unfortunately technology has not quite got to the point where you can reach out and feel them. However, it is absolutely there. And even though there were some greyish purples, browns and what have you here, the Japanese range have their own. And I bought both because I like them in one, so I thought I might like them in the other. This one's dark yellow, which comes across very much as a green. So hopefully it is. Yeah, sort of. Somewhere in the middle of what I saw on the website. I like that colour. Very nice. Again, muted, goes together with all of these others. Not too far. It's a little bit lighter than the colour on the label here, but it's not too terrible, and I really like the colour, so that's going to get a lot of use. With the Japanesque ones that I've chosen, they're quite a lot of darker colours, really into the deep range, and I have a very good reason for that, which shall become apparent in another video, so I will reference that. Black purple, that's quite nice too. A lot lighter. See, now this is a little disappointing because what I wanted was the colour that was actually on the label. I really like that muted purple. This is a little bit grapey, and especially if there's water put with it. That's not at all what is on the label, so you have to be careful. I don't know if that's just this brand, because it's a bit weird with some of the others. The colour, the actual range of acrylics that I use most often when I was teaching folk art and decorative painting was almost exclusively Jo Sonia's. Then I received sponsorship from Deco Art, so I used those for a long time. But to be honest, Jo Sonia's were and still are my favourite. And I've got a couple of tubes of theirs, which are more than 25 years old, and I'm still using them. So, you know, it's testimony to a wonderful product. Red purple is this last one here for this page. And that's exactly as it's advertised. Or, you know, I would expect it to come out this colour, as in red purple. However, still quite a bit different to the more muted colour on the label and the more muted colour on the website. But it's okay. I shall endeavour to get through my disappointment. Okay, so, and again, I can tone them down. It's just that I didn't want to have to. Some people buy 5 colours of acrylic or watercolour. They buy red, yellow and blue, black and white. And with those colours, you can create all of these colours. I like these colours because I tend to be lazy and I want to have the colours ready to go. So I buy them as they are. It would be nice if they were closer, but hey-ho. Black purple, God knows what colour this will be. Where does this even go? Actually, it's not even on that page. That's weird. Black purple, that was black purple. Have I mixed those up and blamed the company? Blue black, actually. This was. I shall have to have a look and see what it is I'm doing here. Give me a minute. I hadn't. I just picked up the wrong tube. I'm that clever today. Right, let's start again and see if we can get it right. So I've got a dark green. I've got a red brown, which can go there. I've got a black green, and I've got a blue black. And I've no idea what to expect from them anymore. I thought I did, but there you go. This is dark green, and what I'm after is a really deep, deep green. And I got it. That's exactly what I wanted. So it's actually better than what's on the label. So I guess it swings and roundabouts. You win some, you lose some. This is more blue, really blue. That, oh my goodness, I'm going to paint a whole wall in that colour. I may need a bit more paint. That's perfect. This one's black green, and it's got some very big shoes to fill because that one, yes, that's my favourite. In fact, it's my favourite out of all of them that I've bought. Yeah, I don't like that one as much. It's very, very similar to deep green. I certainly didn't need to buy both, especially if I don't like, if I'm not absolutely in love with it. I'm not. I'm in love with that. That's perfect. Gosh, well, red brown. Let's see what this one gives us. My dad had a car that colour, and it's nice. It was lovely on that. It was a Jaguar XK120, and he restored it himself, and it was absolutely stunning, and it was perfect for that colour, that car. Red brown. See, now I like that. Strangely, had some water. It's a lighter colour, but I love these autumn tones. Really nice. And that plus that dark green. Yeah, we certainly have a winner. The good thing about the Japanese colours is even though they've got that slight tooth, it doesn't get in the way. It's not annoying as such. So you've got the option of putting more water in, and with mediums it would behave slightly different again. So, there are lots of ways you can sort of work with it. This one's a blue-black. I'm after something like an indigo. Oh, wow. Bloody hell. It's more black than anything else, I'm not going to lie. On the label you can't tell because it's so dark. It's not really a blue anything, actually. It's just black. So Superman's hair colour, shall we call it. Without the blue highlights that they always have on them. That's quite a nice colour, and that will go beautifully to knock some of these others back, because that will be good. Dark brown I had planned, but unfortunately the website didn't have any, so I haven't got that. But that gives me an excuse to go back in and buy again. So that's this lot. Let us put this book aside. And my other book, it's this complicated now because I'm out of space in that one. My Holbein colours are in this book. And I have 3. I have yellow ochre. I have leaf green. Let's see if we can find it without too much fuss. These are a little bit more expensive, and I don't have as, the zeal. Right, sepia. There's sepia. Yellow ochre is right next door, which means leaf green. Where on earth are you? Light green. Just trying to find the number on here as well. Oh, good grief. No idea. It's not very obvious on this one. 24. Let's say it's 24. That's 62. So it's none of those. I'm assuming that this number on the crimp here is. Haven't had a lot to do with these. Like I said, I've always used the same ones, but I may not have even written it down. That's happened before as well. Yeah, can't find it. It's okay. I've got 2 of them. So, yellow ochre. Now, I've already got raw sienna, and these can be remarkably similar. So, you do have to be a little bit careful when buying, especially on a limited budget. And, I mean, who of us doesn't have a limited budget when it comes to this sort of thing? Because art products can add up extremely quickly. That is enough difference, in my opinion. However, you could argue that you don't need both. Oh gosh, leaf green. Find that in a second. Sepia. 70. There it is, right there, right in front of me, in fact. That's okay, we found it now, so all good. This one's sepia. I wanted a nice dark brown, and this is a nice dark brown. Right, that's good. And that will also be useful for knocking back some of the brighter colours. When I use gouache, as in regular gouache, I have a particular green. Let me see if I can find some in here. I don't know that I have done much gouache in here. This is all very much autumn stuff. There's a video on this if you want to see more of it. But no, naturally, I haven't got a damn thing in here with my green on it. Just grabbing another book, see if I can find it in there. Something's bound to have some green in it somewhere. I have a particular green that I use, sort of here, this really, really deep green. I mix that with my regular gouache, so not acrylic gouache. I mix that with my regular gouache from the darkest green I've got, the darkest brown and the darkest blue, which is why I was after these dark colours and the dark green and blue in the other one, because I absolutely love that with my gouache. And I want to have an acrylic gouache equivalent, because although you can paint, I was saying before, you can paint on anything with acrylic and acrylic gouache. You sort of can with normal gouache, but not always, and it's not as reliable. So I want to be able to do the same thing with this. Gosh, what was I thinking when I bought this one? I think I was thinking of dandelion again, and thinking that this would be a really good way to either bring down an aircraft or highlight a tree. I can't remember what I was thinking, but one of those two things. It's quite bright, it's making my eyes go funny. But anyway, that is the last of them there. So this is the recent art haul of acrylic colours in the 4 different styles and 2 different brands. The Holbein is most similar to the regular Turner. And then, of course, like I said, you've got the Pastel, which simply means a lot of white added to the pigments. And then you've got the Japanesque, which I love. The Japanesque ones are probably my favourite, and we'll have I will get most of those quickest and finish that sort of set off. I hope you've enjoyed that and that you've got something from it. Again, do consider getting a relatively cheap book and write down. Don't forget the numbers, because that's the only way I've been able to find some of these is by looking at the numbers. Do that and have a look and see what you can find. And I do see that this is not the number at all. It's the number here, which is how I found that one. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. But no, a swatch book is a really, really good idea, because it means you can keep up with where you're up to. I know at the time we think, oh, I'll remember that one. You won't. Quite often you will be attracted to a colour, and quite often you'll be attracted to the same colour that attracted you last time, which is how you buy 3 of everything. And although you'll probably use it, because if it wasn't a favourite colour, you wouldn't have been attracted to it more than once, our budget is better off dispersed over a few, we want some variety. We don't want 15 pencils the same colour. I don't know anybody who would do that, but if that happened, you don't want that ideally. You want different coloured pencils and different coloured paints. So keeping a nice visual diary, especially for those of us who are visual learners, you can look here at a glance and say, I love that colour. That one, we're going to take some time to get to know each other and see what we can do. But, it's not love at first sight, whereas that, love at first sight. This, love that too. And I can see. And as I said, I can see where there are gaps that are important to my work and to my way of doing things. You'll see exactly the same. You'll look at them and you think, right, I need more yellows, or I'm a pink person and I've got 1 pink and there are 5 on offer. So next time I go shopping, I'll bias towards that because I can see it right here. When you've got a pile of tubes like this, it's difficult to see what exactly you've got. When they're laid out in a diary type format, you can say, right, got that. And when you come to rebuy, if say you fill all this and you think, well, now I can't tell what I've got and what I haven't got, you need to make a little note, or maybe a tick system or a tally or something like that to say, right, I need this because I'm out of this. You make a mark and you put it on a shopping list, and it's so much easier. That's the method I use anyway. Do let me know what you think. Like I said, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and consider joining my Patreon, where you will find all of this stuff used. There are quite a few things that I've talked about here. The videos of, you know, nice long tutorials there. And at the moment, because I'm filming this around Christmas, it's actually December the 9th at the moment, and we have got a advent calendar event going at the moment, which is basically every day a little snippet of an art technique. They don't necessarily follow on or go together. It's just things that I think of that I think my Patreons will love, and that will be up in the collections permanently as far as I know, unless something else happens. So if you are watching this in the future and you would like to see that, don't forget, you know, there's absolutely all sorts on there, something for everybody, I hope. Right, that's it for today. And actually my Patreons will be seeing this a week early, so hi to you all. Everybody else will see it on YouTube next week. And yeah, sort of I'm trying to keep track of all the strings that go together to make whatever this is. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed that. I've really enjoyed showing you, and I shall see you again next week. Bye for now. Bye.